up there in the Bay Area during probably one of the most tumultuous times in history during the mid to late 90s during the bubble. I was still in college then, but I've got friends who are older than me that have told me about massive fortunes that were amassed on paper only to watch them evaporate very quickly over a 6-month kind of holding cooling off period of IPOs. Give any kind of wild ups and downs from that bubble period up there?
Sadly, I did. And though I say this with no regrets at all, no regrets. But yes, we did 2 IPOs during that crazy period. We spun IGN out, and IGN was part of an IPO. The holding company was called Snowball, and that did an IPO. And then Future, Imagine Media had become Future by then. We were owned by a British company, which was a British company Chris Anderson had founded back in the 80s. We went public with them too. And yeah, there was a brief shining moment there where we were all sort of like, oh my God, look at these amazing figures that are, on these little crawls along the bottom of my monitor. We all had these little Yahoo crawls going at the bottom of our monitors. And there was a brief shining moment there where sort of everybody's dreams were going to come true and we were all going to have islands in the sun kind of thing. It literally evaporated in the space of several weeks. It was hard work. It was definitely hard work. And fortunately, I don't know too many people who sort of ended up in debt or ended up in sort of awful situations, because fortunately, and this is luck again to some degree, I suppose, it all happened so fast that most people never got hold of the money that they had on paper because of, holding periods and lockout periods and whatnot. Actually, I only know of one story where somebody ended up in a terrible amount of debt with the IRS and had to borrow money to get out. A relative had to sort of like remortgage their house to help that person get out of it. Most people did okay. Anybody who was working at Future, there was just so, Excite, Yahoo, there were so many people who just at least a couple of weeks where they thought they were set for life and then very quickly discovered they weren't.
Yeah, it must have been a wild time.
It was. And what was it like for you as an observer of that? Were you aware that fortunes were being made and lost?
College student, sitting in the fraternity house at UC Santa Barbara, we were pretty oblivious to what was going on outside of the world. Met a lot of people who, were maybe a little bit older than I was and have told me, everybody kind of had an experience like that if they were up there doing these types of things in the early days, right?
Yeah, a lot of people were caught up in it. I remember, I think Wired did I can't remember who it was. Somebody did a cover once the bubble had burst and a couple of weeks had passed. Somebody did a magazine cover which said something like, "Okay, everybody, back to the crummy job." That was kind of the way it was, it was kind of, okay, everyone, back to 9 to 5, back to like just being regular people. So I'm sure I'm sort of glossing it slightly, but it was all just an experience, part of the rich tapestry of life.